this time. Good morning. Good morning to some, afternoon to others. Listen, fighter jet, U.S. official, American fighter jet down in Iran. I just saw something that said that the pilots have been rescued. I'm not going to waste any time. Let's get straight to that, and then I'll get to the Bondi.
Special report. Let's get to that now.
This is an ABC News special report.
Hi, I'm Diane Macedo. We are coming on the air with breaking news. A U.S. official confirms to ABC News that it appears a U.S. fighter jet has been shot down by Iran. Now, with search and rescue operations underway, let's get to our Chief Global Affairs anchor, Martha Raddatz. Martha, what do we know so far?
Well, Diane, what we do know is this was a two-seater aircraft. The pilot would be in front, the weapons systems officer would be in back, and this would be a very dramatic and very dangerous rescue. Iran's Revolutionary Guard saying that Iranian forces had shot down the U.S. fighter overnight with a back, and this would be a very dramatic and very dangerous rescue. Iran's Revolutionary Guard saying that Iranian forces had shot down the U.S. fighter overnight, with Iranian state media releasing images of the wreckage of a jet and of an intact ejection seat. The IRGC said it was an F35, but from the images that we do believe are credible but have not independently verified, it looks like an Air Force F-15. Now, U.S. pilots are trained in what is called SEER if they are shot down or have to eject over enemy territory. SEER stands for Survive, Evade, Resist, and Escape. The pilots, the navigator, of course, know that Iranians would be looking for them. In fact, Iran put out a message to shoot the pilots if they were found, and a reward was being offered. Later, they said if they are found alive. This comes after would be looking for them. In fact, Iran put out a message to shoot the pilots if they were found, and a reward was being offered. Later, they said if they are found alive. This comes after President Trump claimed in his speech on Wednesday night that the Iranians have no anti-aircraft equipment. Their radar is 100% annihilated. The president saying we are unstoppable as a military force. But again, this is a very, very dangerous mission. Diane.
And I want to bring in ABC News military analyst and former Marine Corps fighter pilot, Colonel Steve Ganyard. Colonel Ganyard, what's the protocol when a plane like this is shot down, and how dangerous is that?
Then, as Martha noted, all pilots, all tactical pilots, are trained in search and rescue evasion techniques, and so they know what to do. They have equipment that will help the rescue forces find them. We're seeing some extraordinary pictures coming out of Iran that appear to be credible, showing U.S. Air Force combat search and rescue C-130s and Blackhawks at low altitude searching for these crews. So they've got the best of the best out there looking for them, and hopefully that this has a happy ending.
And ABC's Selena Wang is at the White House. Selena, what challenges does this pose for the president?
Well, this certainly creates both a military and a diplomatic challenge for President Trump, as you heard Martha just say. In the president's first primetime address since this war began, the president repeatedly touted how the U.S. military and its prowess has decimated the Iranian regime as well as its military, saying they have no navy, they have no air force, that they have no anti-aircraft equipment. But what we have seen is, despite this sustained, continued U.S. military assault, Iran has maintained the ability to maneuver and to hit back. And so far, when we talk about the impact on U.S. troops in this war, there have been 13 U.S. troops killed so far, 348.
More than that.
They have no navy, they have no air force, that they have no anti-aircraft equipment. But what we have seen is, despite this sustained, continued U.S. military assault, Iran has maintained the ability to maneuver and to hit back. And so far, when we talk about the impact on U.S. troops in this war, there have been 13 U.S. troops killed so far, 348 troops who have been wounded so far in this conflict. And it also comes as the American people have been waiting to hear more from the president about how all of this could end. The president has said that there will be another 2 to 3 weeks of intense bombing. At the same time, he has said that this conflict, this military operation, is nearing its end.
And ABC's Britt Clennett is in Jerusalem. Britt, what more are you hearing from the region? Well, more intense exchanges of fire today with no sign of the fighting abating. That's despite, as Selena was saying, President Trump saying that they could finish the job in another 2 or 3 weeks. We're talking 13 U.S. service members killed already, more than 300 wounded since this war began 5 weeks ago, including an attack on a Saudi air base and during a refueling mission. The Israeli death toll, it stands at 19 civilians, 10 soldiers, 4 Palestinians killed in the West Bank. The death toll in Iran at more than 3,500 and injured nearly 100. That's according to local officials there. But certainly, this is adding to the unpopularity of this war, not just at home, but abroad. Trump saying that the U.S. hasn't even started destroying what's left in Iran. Certainly, even the allies are showing growing frustration. And Martha, I know you'll be watching this closely to see how it plays out. What could this mean for the trajectory of this war now?
Well, I think we have to keep a close eye on this rescue mission, and we are all hoping and praying that the pilot and the navigator, the weapons systems officer, are okay. They did eject separately. That is how that works, within milliseconds of one another, so they are not necessarily right by each other, but certainly in the same vicinity. But this could really put a lot of pressure on the Pentagon and the American public if something happens here. Diane.
Martha, Steve, Selena, Britt, thank you all. Again, a U.S. fighter jet shot down in Iran, a search and rescue mission now underway. We are going to return to your regular programming.
Oh, my God.
For some of you, that's Good Morning America, but our coverage continues on ABC News Live and abcnews.com, and we will have a full wrap-up on World News tonight. I'm Diane Macedo. Have a great rest of the day.
Good morning. Can y'all please hit the like button?
We're back now with that breaking news on the reports that a U.S. fighter jet has been downed over Iran. A U.S. official now telling MS Now the U.S. military is conducting a search operation for an American pilot inside Iran. It's not clear if the pilot's plane was shot down or went down. I want to bring back into our conversation MS Now senior national security reporter David Rode, former CIA officer and MS Now national security analyst Mark Polymeropoulos. Also with me, retired Lieutenant General Steph Twitty, an MS Now military analyst. General, thank you for joining our conversation. David, I want to go right to you, though, because you've been working the phones in the minutes since you've been off the air. What more have you learned?
So, yes, a U.S. official confirmed that the U.S. military is conducting a search operation for an American pilot inside Iran. Initial details are very limited at this point. It's not clear what type of plane. It's not clear whether the plane was shot down. Iranian officials have claimed they shot down a plane, or it could have possibly gone down due to mechanical difficulties. The general and Mark can talk about more, but there's an extensive protocol and whole teams that are assigned to get in and rescue pilots when this happens. The pilots normally have some kind of communications once they even land on the ground to communicate with other planes above them to try to get rescued. But we just, don't know what's happening here, just that we've confirmed an operation is underway to find a U.S. pilot somewhere inside Iran.
So, General, pick up on what David is talking about here, that there is preparation for this kind of a circumstance. What might it look like?
Well, this becomes a more complex operation because, remember, we do not have U.S. troops, U.S. forces on the ground in Iran. And normally when you have U.S. forces on the ground in Iran, depending on where the pilot goes down, we normally contact the ground force commander in that area to go and assist in the search and rescue efforts. In this case, because we don't have U.S. forces on the ground, there is a contingency team on standby, search and rescue team, always on standby, either afloat or somewhere in close proximity in another country, ready to go. And it sounds like to me they've already launched to conduct search and rescue effort. The pilots, when they go down, they'll normally have beacons, they'll normally have flares, they'll have limited food in some cases, and they're well trained at escape and evasion operations. And so hopefully these pilots have not been captured. I want to take you back to Iraq in 2003 when some of our pilots were shot down. They were paraded through Baghdad, propaganda. And so
We don't want that to happen. We want to quickly get in, find these pilots, and get out.
You know, Mark, the general is talking about the lack of assets on the ground, but you do have to wonder, do we have intelligence assets on the ground in Iran?
Well, the answer is yes. And, of course, the intelligence community is not going to talk about this. But prior to any types of conflicts like this, the United States, of course, working with our partners as too, in this case, the Israelis, would have set up networks and, for specifically this contingency, which is non-assisted recovery. And so, you would assume that that is all kicked in. And the second an aircraft goes down and there's potential for pilots to be rescued, the entire kind of intelligence ecosystem is going to kick into gear. And so all types of human intelligence, signals intelligence, imagery is going to be tasked. This is now the number one concern for the U.S. national security enterprise is rescuing these pilots.
Yeah, and again, we don't know how this jet ultimately went down, but I think one of the things that you and I were talking about in our short break was the escalatory language that we've heard from the president, the targets that we've seen chosen in recent days. I mean, even going back 5 weeks ago, the bombing of an Iranian school for girls was sent shockwaves really through the geopolitical sphere. And yet we've also seen the U.S. targeting bridges. And I think that the mindset of the administration has seemed to be, from all the reporting we've seen, is that they thought that they would strike with power and the Iranians would back down. And if it ends up that this is a jet that was taken down, what does that tell you about what this looks like going forward as they're saying we're going to bomb them into the Stone Age?
So that comment that President Trump made the other night, and of course Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, echoed that in a tweet or in a posting on X, and I think he just wrote, to the Stone Ages or something like that. That caused a bit of concern. There's the issue of, well, hold on a second, is this going to be potentially the U.S. potentially committing war crimes? But hitting a bridge like we did yesterday, I mean, there are legitimate reasons to do that. That could be a military target. But you do wonder what the Iranian response would be. And we saw today, in fact, that they hit a desalinization plant in Kuwait. That's what they promised to do. If we're going to go after their infrastructure targets, they're going to go after infrastructure targets in the Gulf. And that is, of course, incredibly escalatory. Last piece on this, Ali, is, if we are trying to, in some ways, foment regime change, and I think that's in the back of everyone's mind.
Right.
Taking out infrastructure targets is not necessarily the way to win the hearts and minds of Iranians. And, there's no polling that we can do right now. Presumably, the Iranian, not just the opposition, but actual Iranians welcomed this U.S. move from the beginning because they detest the regime. But if we start taking out infrastructure targets, making their lives, miserable, I think I do have some question on that. Is that actually the right move to take? And that language used, bomb back to the Stone Age, is not helpful.
Yeah, General, I wonder if we can continue jumping off of Mark's point there. We are, of course, going to continue tracking the situation with the downed U.S. fighter jet, but I wonder if you can look at the conflict writ large and compare what we're seeing as an escalation on the ground and a continuation of fighting there, bombing and whatnot, but then also the administration that is continuing to say that we're nearing the end of this conflict without actually laying out what the metrics for success look like or what the specific off-ramp even is.
Yeah, and I can even go further. What you don't want to do is make more enemies. And as we talk about bombing back to the Stone Age, we must remember if we want regime change, we want people on our side to help facilitate that. And whenever you bomb infrastructure, whenever you talk in a bellicose way, you're making more enemies. And so the key is professionally get in there, strike your targets, go after the strategic targets that's going to allow you to win this campaign. In this case, I'll take you back to the down aircraft. We said that we destroyed all their air defense capability. Now, this aircraft could have gone down for maintenance reasons. It could have gone down for whatever. But it appears to me that it has been shot down. I don't know that to be fact. But that tells you that the Iranians, they still have capability out there to be able to strike our forces that are going in harm's way. And so we got to make sure that when we do these type operations, that they're professional in nature and that we go after targets that are intended to get after our strategic goals. In my mind, the strategic goals are we still got to defeat the ballistic missile systems inside of Iran. If we don't ever do that, then they'll continue to harm us. We have to defeat the drones. As you know, they have plenty of drones in Iran. I do not think we've done a good job at this point of destroying the drone capabilities. So we have to continue to go after those. And then the nuclear capability, we haven't talked about that lately. And we don't know where we stand there. That's the third strategic objective that I think if we're going to execute this war, we have to be focused on. And
again,
then
I think it's,
finally,
yes, continue. Go ahead.
Finally, in the discussion of regime change, in my mind, that should be in the hands of the Iranian people, not us. Let's focus on what we need to focus on and let the Iranian people decide their future.
And my apologies for interrupting you, but I think that the clarity with which you put forward those different metrics is the sort of clarity that people, for instance, on Capitol Hill are asking for from the administration. And as conversations around, is this regime change, where is the conversation around nuclear, have faded in and out of the conversation, I think it only lends to a muddier view of what the administration's goals are in this conflict, even as what Mark points out is true, which is that debilitating the Iranian regime is not something I've heard anyone here in Washington or the foreign policy apparatus quarrel with. And yet it's how you do it that is the larger looming question. We're going to keep following all of these threads. David, I know you're going to keep reporting.
This is not our war.
And retired Lieutenant General Steph Twitty, thank you all for staying with us.
That's why he don't have clear vision of what it is that we doing, because his agenda ain't our agenda. His agenda is Bibi Netanyahu's agenda.
And what followed was an absolute shock. I almost made the dumbest mistake of my life. And was this...
We're back following the latest on the U.S. jet downed in Iran. MS Now is learning it was an F-15 jet, which has 2 crew members, according to a U.S. official with knowledge of the matter. The whereabouts of that crew is not clear. That is one of the top questions we're asking as we invite MS Now's Jake Traylor from the White House back into our conversation, and MS Now military analyst Colonel Jack Jacobs still with me. Jake, a lot of fast-moving pieces to this. Has the president been briefed at this point?
Yeah, Ali, in real time, we are speaking with White House officials, one telling MS Now that the president has now been briefed on the situation of a U.S. fighter jet that went down.
So he done been caught in yet another lie.
Search and rescue mission that is, it seems, actively taking place in real time. It's not really a lot of other words coming out of the Pentagon or out of the White House right now.
This is an NBC News special report. Here's Joe Pryor.
Good morning. We're coming on the air with breaking news on the war with Iran. NBC News has learned from 2 U.S. officials that a search and rescue effort is underway.
Good morning,
American
Mr.
fighter jet went down inside Iran's territory earlier today. It's not clear how or why that jet went down. Comes as an Iranian news agency also reported about that.
This is an NBC News special report. Here's Joe Pryor.
Good morning. We're coming on the air with breaking news on the war with Iran. NBC News has learned from 2 U.S. officials that a search and rescue effort
I need for y'all to hit the like button as you enter in, please.
Went down inside Iran's territory earlier today. It's not clear how officials that a search and rescue effort is underway after an American fighter jet went down inside Iran's territory earlier today. It's not clear how or why that jet went down.
They have devices on that person called. Yeah, they said that
and that an American pilot might
the rescue is flying low to find them.
Correspondent Gabe Gutierrez. Gabe, what are we learning?
Yes, Joe. A lot of this is a fast-moving situation, and as you just reported, 2 U.S. officials do confirm that two-seater F-15 went down over Iran earlier today. It is unclear what the fate of that crew is so far, but there is an active search and rescue effort underway, according to those U.S. officials. We're still awaiting any confirmation, though, from the White House. It's unclear right now, with the president having no public events on his schedule. We're waiting to hear whether, in fact, he has been briefed on the ongoing situation. But this comes just 2 days, Joe, after the president gave a primetime address to the American people, making his case for the ongoing operation inside Iran.
He said they were out of weapons.
Here, whether in fact he has been briefed.
He blew up that bridge
earlier today. It is unclear what the fate of that crew is so far.
And they shot down that.
Search and rescue
what is it?
underway, according to those
Fighter
U.S.
jet.
officials. We're still awaiting any confirmation, though, from the White House. It's unclear right now, with the president having no public events on his schedule. We're waiting to hear whether, in fact, he has been briefed on the ongoing situation. But this comes just 2 days, Joe, after the president gave a primetime address to the American people, making his case for the ongoing operation inside Iran, saying that the U.S. would continue airstrikes for the next 2 to 3 weeks, but that the military goals in Iran were nearing completion. Of course, up until this point, U.S. officials had said that there had been 13 casualties among U.S. Service members. Again, still a lot of questions about this particular incident, but we do understand that an F-15 has come down over Iran. Unclear exactly what the fate of the crew is at this point, but we're awaiting any more information from the president or the White House at this point, Joe. Gabe, we are still waiting to hear more from the White House specifically about this, but the president has been talking a lot over the last several hours about what is happening in Iran, the U.S. military's efforts there. What is it we have heard from the president? Certainly. Well, just earlier today, and this comes, again, as I mentioned, the speech that he gave, his primetime address, a rare primetime address for the president, he suggested that U.S. operations may be winding down after a brief period of escalation. But just this morning, the president suggesting that if the U.S. were to have more time, that U.S. officials could go in and take the oil from
all it is about stealing people's oil.
Opening up, raising questions.
Oh my God!
The U.S. does plan
At our servicemen's expense, steal the oil.
Inside Iran.
Oh
However,
my God!
The Secretary of Defense Pete
A
Hegseth,
thief.
as well as President Trump, have repeatedly said that Iran's missile capabilities have been degraded significantly, that their missile attacks have been down more than 90% since the war began. Still, though, this does suggest, this downing of this F-15 fighter jet does suggest that Iran still does have potentially.
Absolutely, because they've been winning.
Although, again, we're still waiting to hear what the exact circumstances of this downing of this F-15 fighter jet are. But, again, Joe, the president this morning raising the possibility that it won't be such a quick withdrawal from the Middle East, from Iran, as he suggested just 2 days ago. All right, Gabe, we'll ask you to continue to stand by there at the White House. Let's go to our international correspondent, Raf Sanchez, who is in Doha, Qatar. Raf, we have been hearing a lot of reporting from Iran state media throughout the morning here. Wanted to wait till we got more official word from those U.S. officials before coming on the air with this new information. But what have we been hearing out of Iran today?
So, Joe, we have been hearing from authorities in Iran that this American warplane went down in an area of the south of the country. This is a mountainous region. It is a tribal region. A lot of the population there are made up of nomadic tribes, and authorities in those provinces are saying that they are putting out a reward for any there are made up of nomadic tribes, and authorities in those provinces are saying that they are putting out a reward for anyone who is able to capture this aircrew. They do not seem to know at this point whether these pilots are alive or not, but they are saying it is a priority for them to be taken into custody in Iran. They're offering a reward the equivalent of $60,000, and they are saying capturing them alive is the priority. Now, Joe, if it is confirmed that this aircraft was indeed shot down, that would be the first confirmed downing of an American aircraft by hostile fire during this war. You will remember about 3 weeks confirmed that this aircraft was indeed shot down. That would be the first confirmed downing of. Capturing them alive is the priority. Now, Joe, if it is confirmed that this aircraft was indeed shot down, that would be the first confirmed downing of an American aircraft by hostile fire during this war. You will remember about 3 weeks ago, a refueling plane collided with another aircraft over Iraq. It crashed. 6 service members were killed there. And then in the early days of the war, 3 F-15s were shot down over Kuwait. That was a friendly fire incident. Those were American aircraft shot down by the Kuwaiti Air Force. Iranian state media does seem to be reporting that some kind of rescue operation is underway. We are seeing videos out of southern Iran of what appear to be American helicopters flying low over the valleys in this mountainous region. But again, authorities in Iran are urging people in that area to try to find and capture this American aircrew, and they are offering a reward for anyone who's able to do so.
All right, Raph, we'll ask you to continue to stand by there. We do want to go back to Gabe Gutierrez at the White House with some more reporting about the president and him being briefed on this. Gabe, what do you know?
Yeah, that's right. According to White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt just a few moments ago, according to her, the president has been briefed on this incident. Again, we're awaiting any official comment from either him or Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth or CENTCOM that might shed some more light on what just unfolded here. But again, Joe, as I was reporting earlier, this does raise questions about the president's plan in the upcoming days and weeks for this war. He has been threatening an escalation, even yesterday saying that the U.S. has not even begun to attack what's left of Iran. Certainly the Defense Department had been saying that the U.S. has struck some 12,000 targets since the war began. A U.S. official telling NBC News that the military checklist for the war was nearing completion, but certainly the president is suggesting that an escalation could happen over the coming days and weeks, about 2 to 3 more weeks. But again, the breaking news right now, the president of the United States has been briefed on this incident, and we're awaiting any official comment from him, Joe.
All right, let's bring in NBC's Stephanie Gosk, who joins us now from on the ground in Tel Aviv. Steph, over the last few weeks, anytime we get an update from the Department of Defense, they talk about how much Iran's abilities to fire, to use drones, have been degraded substantially over time. So what do we know about Iran's capability of still firing, first at targets above in the sky and also at other targets throughout the Middle East?
Yeah, Joe, so the U.S. officials say that basically Iranian's military is decimated. Iranian officials say that's not the case. The only thing we know for sure, Joe, is what they're able to do with their military. And we've seen in the last 24 hours examples of what they're still capable of. Now, we don't know if this F-15 was actually shot down or not, but if it was, then that suggests they've got air defense systems that are still working. From our perspective here in Israel in the last 24 hours, we've certainly seen rocket attacks coming. I just came from a site that was impacted last night, and we saw some images of it. At least a large part of a rocket or the entire rocket itself hit a warehouse just outside of Tel Aviv, fairly close to the airport. We went out there. It's a warehouse that's owned by a company called Aerosol, which is an aerospace manufacturer, according to its website, and they make drones. Now, that certainly would seem to be a target that the Iranians would want to hit directly. We also have targets being hit in the Gulf today. You had a Kuwaiti oil refinery, as well as a desalination plant that was also targeted. So clearly there's still some ballistics ability that they have, and they are still hitting targets, Joe.
And Steph, that's sort of a sign of how things have sort of shifted in recent days, is this focus on the infrastructure that is in Iran. When we talk about power plants, refineries, desalination plants, the bridge that the president was talking about on social media today, but also some of the energy infrastructure in other countries around Iran, correct?
Yeah, there is this kind of exchange back and forth between hitting infrastructure. The president putting up that video on Truth Social yesterday of the bridge in flames, smoke rising, saying that more will be hit. He's also said that power plants will be hit if there is no agreement that is
He know they have missiles. He do not care about the United States.
Is one of the most critical
He's acting like he do, but he doesn't.
Because That's how people get their fresh water. A desalination
He
plant
wants
takes
a
the
war
salty
on
water
his
from the
record,
sea, takes the salt out,
you know,
and then
under his
becomes water that people can drink,
legacy,
Joe.
so
All
to
right,
say.
Ralph, let's bring you back
At
in here. I
any
know there have been these visuals
any
emerging from Iran. We've had experts
expense,
looking
any
at
cost,
those
any
visuals to get
life
a better idea
necessary.
of what happened with this fighter jet in Iran. What is it we're learning from those experts?
Yeah, Joe, so we ran some of these pictures past an expert. You may just be able to see on that bit of wreckage there is the corner of a design. And one of the experts we ran that picture past says that design indicates that this F-15 was based at an American air base in the United Kingdom. It's called RAF Lakenheath. And we do know that warplanes from that base were moved from the UK to the Middle East to take part in this operation against Iran. So
You know,
again,
this
we do
may
not
be
have any
staged,
official
y'all.
confirmation from the
If it was
Pentagon, from the
stationed
US
there.
military, but this expert who's knowledgeable is saying that that marking would be consistent with those of squadrons based at RAF Lakenheath. We've been saying, Joe, that this is a two-seater F-15. So normally what you have in that configuration is one pilot and one weapons operator.
Hey,
These are
anomaly,
versatile aircraft. They
anomaly.
can be used to strike against the ground. And as we've been seeing over and over again in this conflict, refueling aircraft are playing a big, big role, keeping these smaller fighter jets in the skies over Iran. You can imagine, Joe, just from the emphasis that Iranian authorities are putting on finding this air crew, that they would consider it an enormous coup if they were able to capture alive the two air crew from this F-15. From the Iranian perspective, those pilots would be a significant source of leverage in any future negotiations with the United States. You'll remember that the Islamic Republic back in 1979
But Trump gotta care. He don't
with
care.
a hostage crisis, holding American diplomats from the U.S. Embassy in Tehran hostage, using them in negotiations with the Carter administration before they were eventually released on the very first day of Ronald Reagan's presidency. And so as the Iranian regime eyes potential negotiations with the Trump administration on how to end this war, it would be a major, major bargaining chip for them if they did have two American pilots in their custody. And that explains, Joe, why they are offering this reward, the equivalent of some $60,000 to people in this tribal area if they are able to find these pilots. And again, they say capturing them alive is the priority. Joe.
Raph, I want to recap this breaking news this morning. Two U.S. officials telling us a two-seater F-15 went down over Iran Friday and that a U.S. military search and rescue effort is underway. That's what we know, Raph. I'm going to ask you a question that might be better for our Pentagon reporters, but perhaps you know the answer. Clearly, U.S. Central Command has to be prepared for every single possible scenario, including this possibility right here. Do we have an idea of how CENTCOM has prepared for a search and rescue operation like this within the borders of Iran? I have to imagine that would involve perhaps using helicopters, which can be more of a target if Iran is firing at U.S. military aircraft.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. We don't know the details of the contingency planning CENTCOM would have done for this specific scenario over Iran, but you can guarantee any time that the U.S. military is sending fighter aircraft over hostile territory, there will have been planning for what happens if that aircraft goes down, whether it's shot down or whether it suffers some kind of technical malfunction. And at this point, we just don't know for sure in this case. But the basic playbook is this. First of all, the military will want to establish total air superiority over the region where that downed plane is thought to be. So you will have a lot of fighter aircraft in the sky, making sure that no Iranian jets or helicopters can interfere. You're then going to want a lot of aircraft for ground support. So these are planes, fighter jets, helicopters, to make sure that Iranian ground forces moving towards that
MK
area are
Ultra
not able to
Instinct
reach that crash site.
are the
Again, this is a
Pizzagate
fairly
denying.
mountainous region of southern Iran. This would not necessarily be an easy operation for Iranian ground troops to make their way to the crash site, let alone
Put your
for
questions
them
on
to
the
do it
super
while
chat or
under fire from the
super
air.
sticker
You're seeing on
MK
the screen
Ultra.
right now what appears to be a refueling aircraft refueling 2 American helicopters over southern Iran. The final layer of any search and rescue operation, once you've established superiority in the air, once you've put assets in the air to make sure that Iranian ground troops can't reach the area, is to have boots on the ground, usually dropped from helicopters,
Thank you, Janet.
to go and to recover those pilots. That obviously is the dangerous part, the incredibly dangerous part, where some American helicopter would need to land on the ground. Most likely special forces would have to climb out of that helicopter, and they would aim to recover that air crew, get them back in the helicopter, get back airborne, and then make their way safely out of Iran again. At this point, Joe, we just do not know, either from the U.S. side or from reports coming out of Iran, the fate of that air crew. It does seem clear that a large-scale search and rescue operation is underway. We do not know whether the U.S. has a detailed sense of where exactly that air crew might be, but it is very clear right now that both the United States military and the Iranians are looking at this. That obviously is the dangerous part, the incredibly dangerous part, where some American helicopter would need to land on the ground. Most likely special forces would have to climb out of that helicopter, and they would aim to recover that air crew, get them back in the helicopter, get back airborne, and then make their way safely out of Iran again. At this point, Joe, we just do not know, either from the U.S. side or from reports coming out of Iran, the fate of that air crew. It does seem clear that a large-scale search and rescue operation is underway. We do not know whether the U.S. has a detailed sense of where exactly that air crew might be, but it is very clear right now that both the United States military and the Iranians are looking for them.
Jeff, a video we showed a moment ago, a C-130 tanker, 2 helicopters flying over southern Iran. Let's go back to Gabe Gutierrez, who's at the White House, where the president is being briefed on the situation right now. Gabe, so many people are asking the question of what could be the off-ramp here. That depends on the negotiations with Iran. Where do those stand right now?
Well, at this point, there are a lot of questions about where those stands. Of course, there have been messages traded between the U.S. and Iran through Pakistani intermediaries. Earlier this week, the president told the New York Post that the U.S. had been in direct talks, actually, with the parliamentary speaker inside Iran, although there have been a lot of questions about the frequency of those messages and what Iran has actually agreed to. There are many
One of the
unanswered
bases
questions
that
about any
has
potential
been
off-ramp
bombed in
here. Just earlier
Qatar,
this week,
I
the president
served
said
there
that
and
it
was
didn't matter
bombed
if the
once.
Iranians
Oh,
came to the
wow.
negotiating table or not, because the
Yeah,
U.S.
Qatar
had
wants.
already decimated
Hold
so
on.
much of
I mean, since you brought up Qatar, y'all please hit the like button. Qatar leader wants their plane back from Trump that they gifted him. They are being Indian givers. He has requested, has filed a special request to receive the aircraft back from Trump. Can y'all believe that? They want their jet plane back. Oh, it's getting touchy. You know, they believe whatever he was trying to sell to them, and now they want their aircraft back. Speaking of Qatar, whatever deals they had as normal, he has not fulfilled his obligations. I told y'all a long time ago that he was playing everybody. Remember, Qatar wanted the West Bank, and Bibi Netanyahu and Trump got into it because he told him not to bomb the West Bank. So he had deals with Qatar, with Israel. Well, guess what? Israel who? The state of Israel who? Oh, yeah. So everything that he's saying, about Iran is the reverse. Israel, who? Oh, it's on fire, baby. It's gone. Yeah, just the FYI, since you mentioned Qatar, and I'm glad that you made it through that bombing when you were enlisted alive. Bless you, sir. I'm an elite. Or man, I don't know which one it is, but bless you. I'm glad God saw favor. Let's go. This is crazy that we're having to have these type of talks.
Capabilities.
Okay, y'all, I asked y'all to hit the like button. Double tap the face of your phone if that's how you're listening in with your good ear. Or there's 3 dots at the top right corner. If you can tap those, hit the like button. Let me see the like button going up, and then I will resume where we were. But not until. Yeah. That's what I'm on right now. Only 3 people has hit it. Hedge Seth asked U.S. Army Chief of Staff to retire, step down. Yeah, then the next day they get bombed. Our military get bombed. They always want to get rid of the experienced ones. They want to leave inexperienced there to get a chance of them losing their lives. It's just crazy.
This breaking news raises questions about the potential for escalation in the next coming days. We should point out, Joe, that U.S. officials have not confirmed exactly how that fighter jet came down. So we're still waiting for any more information on that and awaiting any further comment from the president or the defense secretary. But again, for those just tuning in, the press secretary here at the White House saying that the president has been briefed at this point. The president suggesting earlier today that the U.S. could somehow get more involved in taking back or reopening the Strait of Hormuz, Joe.
All right, Dave Gutierrez and our entire team, thank you so much for your reporting. That concludes this NBC News special report. We'll have more ahead on our streaming network, NBC News Now, online at NBCNews.com. A full wrap-up tonight on NBC Nightly News. I'm Joe Fryer. Thank you for watching.
Okay, so let's move on over to Bonica. Bondi out of job. I just made that up, y'all, but she is out of a job. Yeah. Play Iran war. What are you talking about? Yeah, but it seemed like only people he letting go is women. Hold on.
Let's go live outside the White House now for much more on this with CBS News White House correspondent Awisha Zhang. Awisha, are we hearing anything from the White House yet about this? Ellie just said that the president has been briefed, but any information from the White House?
Beyond what Ellie just shared, no. We haven't heard directly from President Trump, and the White House has not offered any.
Let's go live outside the White House now for much more on this with CBS News White House correspondent Awisha Zhang. Awisha, are we hearing anything from the White House yet about this? Ellie just said that the president has been briefed, but any information from the White House?
Iran is not bad people. No, they're not.
Ellie just shared, no. We haven't heard directly from President Trump, and the White House has not.
Solid. Dust. Who are you talking to?
He has been briefed.
Solid Dust. Who? Did you hit the like button first of all before I give you a piece of my mind? Oh, okay. Did you hit my like button? My like button didn't go up. So either exit. Oh, okay. Okay. Why you? Okay. Looking at you with my side eye. Thank you.
And likely calculating what the very important response will be, because It was just 2 nights ago when the president addressed the nation in a primetime speech and said that the
Lying.
U.S. had essentially eviscerated Iran, which he said was basically not a threat anymore, echoing what he had been saying for several weeks. The president went on to say
Full
that
of
the
lies.
U.S. has destroyed the Iranian Navy, its Air Force, missile capability, and so this calls into question whether that assessment is
Who
the
lying to
same,
him, or is he
whether
just
this
lying to
was
us?
a one-off by Iran
That's
that
the
got
question.
lucky, or whether they are looking
Who's
and
fooling who?
reevaluating at Iran's capabilities as the president tries to wind down this war, because the bottom line of that speech message was that the end is near.
And Lucia, I want to switch to a
I
different
mean,
topic.
I want to say, sir, your end is near as well. That's why you firing folks. Yeah, because you know there's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. So the best thing going for you is to act like you winning this war. Act like your name is not in the Epstein files. Act like you did not penetrate minors. Yeah, act like you're not a PDFer. You just on a act like tour. Act like you wasn't friends with Epstein. Uh-huh. Act like you wasn't stealing. Act like you ain't a fraudster. You just acting like. And in the meantime, the U.S. is suffering. Our military men are being shot down. You got them boots on the ground with no, I heard some of them didn't even get their toiletries, don't have a place to sleep, just looking foolish on your watch. The worst ever. But in your mind, it's the best. That's how you play with yourself. That's how you do play with yourself. Mentally, physically, all of that. Yeah, knowing good and damn well you funky, shitting all over the place and acting like it was that me. Yeah, it was you. Yes, it was you. It's your funky ass. Let's go.
Was that the end is near.
And Lucia, I want to switch to a different topic here because the White House is set to release the president's 2027 budget today, which will include a big boost in defense spending. What do we know about that?
The White House has released it, and obviously it is extremely long and detailed, so we are sifting through it, but we do know that it includes a 10% reduction in non-defense spending, a reduction of $73 billion. The president saying that the savings are achieved by reducing or eliminating, quote, woke, weaponized, and wasteful programs. Notable that just this week, the president here at the White House talked about...
Just like this war is a waste because it's not ours. We're spending trillions on a war for Bibi Netanyahu. Your cult leader. Yeah, stop wasting our taxpayers' dollars on the fake Israel. It's man-made, made up. It's not even 100 years old. It's just fraud all over the place. U.S. soil and foreign land. And it is not biblical.
About how daycare, as an example, should not be the...
Well, as far as Israel goes, it's biblical because it's good and evil. And we all know that evil will lose. Yeah.
Government's responsibility. He said that states ought to be the ones that pay for daycare. So that is one example.
And Israel needs to pay for their own war. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Israel needs to pay for their own war. And then the states will pay for their own daycare for the needy. Hell, is this fake Israel needy? I mean, I know they putting money in all the lobbyists' pockets, so why don't they use that money to build whatever it is that they are trying to build and steal whatever they're trying to steal on their own? Use the money that you are baiting in these people who are supposed to be U.S. first. Hi, big bro. This is crazy to me. They make it seem like like it's not 1 + 1 = 2. How dare you say we needy, but you giving to a needy fake? Okay, because you in on the infrastructure. You're in, so you're invested. You're stealing to fund your investment. Oh, okay. I wasn't supposed to say that. I wasn't supposed to say it like that. Yeah, you stealing. And then you had a nerve to say we broke, busted, and disgusted. No, you're broke, busted, and disgusted. That's why you couldn't get you a surety bond. Busted boy with the pull-up diaper. Yeah, let's not get it twisted. Don't get lost in your own lying sauce. Yeah.
President was referring to. We also know that there are,
Liar.
as you said, a massive request for military spending, $1.5 trillion, in fact, in defense budget spending, and that is about a 42% increase from the 2026 total.
You wait till Pam Bondi start telling about y'all little
things, including
situation.
dozens more of the fighter jets that we have been talking about all morning, and for building a golden dome, which would be a protection defense system around the U.S.
How did that work for Israel?
It's going to be
How did that dome work for Israel? We talked about that dome about a month ago. How did that dome work for Israel? Hey, Beverly. How did it work? Why are they on fire right now? You pumped that golden dome up like it was solid steel, no way, like it was Superman, Superdome, faster than the speeding bullet type shit, you know? Like that dome had a S on his chest. Hey, be rich. Huh? You talked that dome up like it had a S on his chest. Yeah, it was so unique, so on point that we gonna build one for the U.S. BB Netanyahu. You don't get all of. I mean, you was just going on and on. You had a whole song and bouncing up and down song form. You know, like you was doing a lap dance and shit. Yeah, now. Yeah. And now they don't know if he dead or alive. Because that bomb didn't do what you said it was going to do. Yeah, that's why they all mad at you. You done lied to them. That's why Qatar said, give me my damn aircraft back. You full of shit, fat fuck you. Woo, let's go. Let's go.
Get all of this money approved in Congress, but that is what the president is asking for. Of course, we are in a time of war. In addition to this official budget request, the president is expected to ask for.
I thought it wasn't a war.
For the Iran war and replenishing.
I thought it wasn't a war.
Piles of about $200 billion at some point, Nuko.
Okay, Leisha Zhang outside the White House for us today. Thank you.
Lying ass.
We got the beef ragu by Chef.
Just be lying. Get near, Pam. Come here, girl. Ooh, I know your feelings hurt. Ooh, I know your feelings hurt. Your feelings is hurt. Oh my God. Just thinking about changing this funky butt diaper. Oh my God. And getting it. Oh my God. Whatever you did, I know you mad about it now. How could I? Auntie Fee, are you laughing at her? Hell yeah, I'm laughing at her. She could not turn around and face those victims. You could not face the victims. Trump loses it as his lawyer calls for, his ex lawyer is calling for it. Oh, wow. Well, all hell breaks loose as Trump gives up to Russia in war. What?
Goodbye, NATO, with a all hell is breaking loose as Donald Trump gives up to Russia, and the world is furious at Donald Trump's betrayal. Donald Trump's catastrophic war in Iran continues to get worse for the United States. Trump rants and raves like a lunatic. He continues to attack NATO. He continues to attack Ukraine. Russia's special envoy to the United States and sovereign wealth fund leader Kirill Dmitriev just posted, "Goodbye, NATO," with a dove emoji as Donald Trump continues to attack
He better get the
NATO.
people back their
Lots
plane.
of observers are
Thank you, Miss
saying
Tom.
Russia is elated at the
He's supposed to
prospect
give
of the U.S. leaving NATO.
give
Now, at
it
the
back
Minus Touch Network, we've done videos
Farrakhan,
like all hell
protect the
breaks
money.
loose as Trump's blockade collapses. Donald Trump claimed he was doing a blockade of Cuba.
I need for y'all to hit the like
Mexico,
button.
Colombia, and any other nation to provide oil and humanitarian relief to Cuba. But when
He better stop
Vladimir
playing
Putin
with them
wanted
people.
to come in with his tankers,
They gonna
Donald
put his
Trump
head
said,
on a
"Come on
platter."
in, Vladimir Putin," and allowed Putin to become a hero in Cuba by delivering the oil, while Donald Trump blocked America's allies from doing that. And Donald Trump claimed he was not going to let anybody get into Cuba to deliver oil or humanitarian aid. We did another video called All Hell Breaks Loose as Trump surrenders to Russia. And this video involved Donald Trump removing sanctions on Russian oil, allowing Russia to make billions of dollars every day selling oil. In addition, Donald Trump has recently removed sanctions on Russian vessels that were sanctioned. Oh, and of course, Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans in Congress invited key leaders from Russia's Duma, which is basically their Senate, to visit Washington, D.C., take a tour of the Capitol, meet with the State Department, and have high-level meetings with MAGA Republican
Like a
Congress
lunatic.
members. And folks, it gets worse, though, because now with Donald Trump's weakness, the product of the visit by Japan's Prime Minister Takaishi to the United States, as well as Donald Trump's catastrophic war in Iran, causing this supply shock to oil. Now Japan, which would otherwise potentially run out of crude and run out of liquefied natural gas and run out of key supplies, now that Donald Trump has removed sanctions on Russia, Japan is getting ready to make big purchases of Russian oil. And you just put it all together, right? I mean, Japan, their Prime Minister Takaishi recently met with Donald Trump. Trump removes the sanctions on Russia. Trump is making Russia very rich right now. Japanese journalist Hirono Takashi reports that Japanese Prime Minister Takaishi is readying to get her hands on all that Russian blood money, sending a team to meet up with Putin's people next month. Seems like Donald Trump and his regime are helping facilitate that. Here's what we learned about from Hirono Takashi. Disturbing news from Japan. According to the Kyoto sources, Tokyo plans to send an economic mission to Russia, counting on the full resumption of Japanese companies following the conclusion of Russian full-scale aggression against Ukraine. At least 5 of the largest retail companies, including Mitsubishi, Mitsui, have received requests to participate. A visit is planned in May. Kyoto logically notes, as the war rages on in Japan as well as the Western countries apply economic sanctions, the vigor of such a plan is likely to be questioned. Around the premier, Takaishi gathered a team of former prime ministers, a former Prime Minister Abe, which has quite a pro-Russian official who are part of this thing. Takaishi herself is not considered to be too knowledgeable in the sensitivity on foreign policy, and advisors advise her that if so-and-so did it, you should be able to do it as well. And people are saying that she's considering buying Russian oil right there as well. Also, there was a major phone call that just took place between Iranian's Foreign Minister Araghchi and the Foreign Minister of Russia. Sergei Lavrov. And during this call, they talked about further coordination between the countries, as well as blocking any United Nations resolution that would call for allowing offensive military strikes to take place in the Strait of Hormuz. And so they're holding these conversations very publicly. It's also notable that from the latest reporting, France would also be joining China and Russia to block any Bahrain-backed United Nations Security Council resolution calling for any type of invasion or offensive capabilities to be launched in the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, French President Emmanuel Macron, in addition to denying Donald Trump the right to use French airspace as well as French military bases as part of this unlawful and catastrophic war in Iran, Macron has said, look, going into the Strait of Hormuz is basically a suicide mission, and there would
And
be
they
mass
care about
casualties.
their
The war would never
military.
end. It's probably the worst thing that you can do right now. And this was all caused by Donald Trump going it alone, not securing the Strait of Hormuz when the war began. It's 100% Donald Trump's fault right now. Also, to show you what a bootlicker
Thank you, Miss
Donald
Tom.
Trump
Thank you,
is of
Janet.
Putin, what a sycophant he is of Vladimir Putin. Here we have the official office of the vice president itinerary coming up. J.D. Vance will visit Hungary next week to show support with Viktor Orban. That's Putin's puppet over there in Hungary, ahead of the election, which is coming up in the next 2 weeks as well. As Jay in Kyiv explains, Trump sending J.D. Vance to rescue Hungary's Russian-backed Viktor Orban regime will prove as effective as when Trump sent Vance to rescue Germany's Russian-backed AfD party last year. And again, it should be noted that the AfD party has been saying they want all American military bases out of Germany right now. Foreign Policy magazine has the following headline: Trump is losing the war in Iran. 1 month in, the Islamic Republic is winning merely by surviving. I do want to note as well what the Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk posted earlier yesterday.
That's
Polish
BB.
Prime Minister
That's where
Donald
BB
Tusk
Netanyahu
posted,
from.
Trump is losing the war in Iran. 1 month
Loser.
in, the Islamic Republic is winning merely by surviving. I do want to note as well what the Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk posted earlier yesterday. So as Kirill Dmitriev of Russia is spiking the football and saying goodbye NATO because Donald Trump keeps on attacking NATO, Tusk, the Prime Minister of Poland, posted the following: the threat of NATO's breakup, easing sanctions on Russia, a massive energy crisis in Europe, halting aid for Ukraine, and blocking the loan for Kyiv by Orban. It all looks like Putin's dream plan. Right, all of this. Donald Trump is complicit, compliant, aiding and abetting. Trump lifts the oil sanctions against Putin. Donald Trump lifts the sanctions against Russian vessels, invites the sanctioned Duma members to Washington, D.C., legitimizes them, allows the Russian tankers into Cuba, denies American allies the right to help Cuba. You got to be confident, right, that Russia's also bringing weapons to aid and help Cuba. Everybody remembers the Cuban Missile Crisis? Like, everything that we've done in the past where like America's like stood strong or stood its ground or whatever, you know, right now Donald Trump's doing in reverse, but in fast forward, it's like right here, Putin just easily breaks the blockade, goes right in. And then the people of Cuba are very grateful and thankful that they've got the oil and the supplies because Donald Trump was starving him and let Putin become the hero versus allowing our allies to deliver, or just not doing the blockade in the first place. How about that? Not committing the war crime of the blockade against Cuba in the first place.
So this story is absolutely insane. Trump is taking $1 billion in taxpayer money and handing it to a French energy giant to cancel offshore wind farms. And
right, as Russia gains power, as China gains power, as America looks weaker by the day, the GCC, basically the Gulf Coast countries, the alliance there, they're basically saying they're going to need to form their own security umbrella once this war is over because they can't rely on the United States anymore. The U.S. is not able to provide any security umbrella of any meaningful amount. Donald Trump can brag about, oh, look what we do for all of you. But at this point, Donald Trump has caused trillions and trillions of dollars of damages in the Middle East. Similarly, Jordan's parliament speaker calls for this post-war joint defense economic treaty to encompass the Arab world in order to try to serve as a check and balance against a stronger Iran, right? Iran is coming out of this richer with control of the Strait of Hormuz. If this ends soon, they're going to be charging tolls in the Strait of Hormuz. The price of oil will be basically something that Iran can manipulate at any given moment. And so, these Arab nations are saying, what can we do together at this point in order to create some sort of deterrence mechanisms because the United States is so utterly weak right now. I mentioned this before, but let me mention again, France blocking any security, UN Security Council resolution that would call for like an invasion of the Strait of Hormuz. Because here's what Macron has been saying: we must be serious, and when we are serious, we do not say the opposite of what we said the day before. Perhaps we should not speak every day. We should simply calm things down and build lasting peace. In other words, Donald, stop talking. Your words and your constant contradictions and saying the opposite of what you said one day, the other day, it's really not helping. It's making things worse. Just calm down, take a break, stop saying words, and maybe things could get a little better if the grown-ups actually deal with this. Macron also said the following to Donald Trump. Here was his message at Trump. Hey, Donald, be serious. When we are serious, we do not say the opposite of what we said the day before. 6 months ago, you told us, Donald, that everything had been destroyed and settled. Clearly, that was not the case. Without international inspectors verifying materials, research, and hidden sites, it's simply not serious. You're simply not serious, Donald. When it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, listen, opening by force is not the option we have chosen in France. We consider it unrealistic. A military operation to reopen it would take an infinite amount of time and expose forces to immense coastal and ballistic risks. From the beginning, we have said it must be reopened, but only in coordination with Iran. The world cannot live with a strait that can be opened or closed overnight. Another notable development that we should be talking about, like in addition to Donald Trump threatening to blow up more bridges, blowing up bridges yesterday, bragging about it, and, which is a clear and undisputed war crime.
Hell,
Donald Trump's been begging
anybody's
Iran
better than Trump
to come to the negotiating table and to come up with some deal, to come up with some ceasefire. Iran has said it's not interested in any ceasefire. It has its certain non-negotiables. They want complete security guarantees that the United States and Israel won't strike not just Iran, but Iranian Shiite groups in Iraq, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, Iranian Shiite groups in Iraq, and full reparations. Iran gets to keep all its ballistic missiles and drones and Shahids and FPVs. Iran gets to control the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran gets reparations and an apology. That's basically the outset of the Iranian non-negotiables. But in any event, Trump's been telling Pakistan, hey, Pakistan, can you help us with Iran? They don't want to talk to us. Pakistan tried to help, so Pakistan reached out to a guy named Kamal Karazi. This was Pakistan's move. They reached out to Kamal Karazi. He's Iran's former minister. He's former foreign minister. He's someone who was believed by Pakistan to be possibly involved in negotiations, even though the current Iranian regime was not interested in speaking with the United States. This was one of the ways that Pakistan said, okay, here's how we can be helpful. Let's get Kamal Karazi to be involved in negotiating. So once the U.S. and Israel found out Kamal Karazi's location, because he was involved with Pakistan and he came out to be helpful to the negotiation, the U.S. did a decapitation strike. They seriously wounded him. He's in severe condition, and his wife was killed in the strike. They killed the guy's wife, who they said they wanted to help negotiate. the moment he surfaced to try to help negotiate.
He does
Right?
not
So you had
want
the last
peace.
time there was a negotiation. That night when a deal was made, that's when the U.S. invaded. Similarly, back in June, the same thing happened. And now they brought
They
out
did
this
not
guy,
want peace.
the
It
old
was a
foreign
front.
minister, and then they killed the guy's wife, and then they almost killed him. He's in severe condition. We're not sure if he's going to be able to make it, but we'll be following it as well. One other, I think, important signal taking place, right? As Russia is getting richer and stronger, as Iran is getting wealthier and stronger, don't even get me started on China. I mean, China just sits back while its enemy continues to make all of these mistakes. The U.S. makes mistake after mistake after mistake, and Donald Trump's like, I can't wait to visit Xi Jinping. It's going to be amazing to visit Xi Jinping. Meanwhile, you
He's
have
the
China's
enemy of the
foreign minister say, the root cause for disruptions to the passage through the Strait of Hormuz is the illegal U.S. military operations against Iran, right? So you have China just calling out the United States for engaging
It's
in war
Israel's
crimes,
fault.
and then Donald
I don't
Trump's
blame
like,
him.
I can't wait to meet with China. So Xi Jinping, I'm building my ballroom for Xi Jinping. I can't wait for him to see my ballroom.
He in love with foreign
Okay,
leaders.
well, all of that's going down. One of the things, and China's getting richer,
Trump
Russia's
is
getting
in love
richer,
with foreign
Iran's
leaders.
getting richer. They're all getting more powerful. One of the things we learned is this: the Financial Times reports foreign central banks are selling U.S. treasuries in wake of the Iran war. Foreign central banks are selling U.S. bonds at a time when the treasury market is already under pressure, as traders worry that the Middle East conflict could drive up inflation. Foreign central banks have slashed their holdings of treasuries at the New York Federal Reserve to the lowest level since 2012, as countries sell the U.S. government bonds to prop up their economies and currencies in the wake of the Iran war. The value of treasuries held in the custody of New York Fed by official institutions, a group that is largely made up of central banks but also includes governments and international institutions, has dropped by $82 billion since February 25 to $2.7 trillion according to Fed data. So we'll keep you posted every step of the way. That's what we got for now. Hit subscribe. We'll get to 7 million subscribers with your support. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.
Let's see what Pam Bondi's talking about. I'm an hour and 11 minutes in, and my likes are 260 people, and I don't have half of the likes. Please hit the like button. Double tap the face of the screen. Please and thank you. I'm thanking you in advance. I'm hoping that you move with the 3 dots at the top corner right, and I can continue to go forward, because you know I'm a blink away. Who is turning already?
Todd Blanche has led in the aftermath of the firing of Pam Bondi. As we pick up the pieces behind this mess, there's a couple of questions that remain. Why didn't Todd Blanche get the job, the Attorney General job? Why is he only the acting Attorney General? And why does it look like the top job's going to go to a political hack who's the head of the EPA, former representative from Long Island, Lee Zeldin? What happened to Todd Blanche? Why isn't he liked or trusted by the Trump people? I think I have the answer to that. And the second is, what happens to Pam Bondi? Even though she's going off to some private job that she can't name somewhere in the private sector at some indeterminate time, sounds like a made-up, trusted by the Trump people. I think I have the answer. The pieces behind this mess, there's a couple of questions that remain. Why didn't Todd Blanche get the job, the Attorney General job? Why is he only the acting Attorney General? And why does it look like the top job's going to go to a political hack who's the head of the EPA, former representative from Long Island, Lee Zeldin? What happened to Todd Blanche? Why isn't he liked or trusted by the Trump people? I think I have the answer to that. And the second is, what happens to Pam Bondi? Even though she's going off to some private job that she can't name somewhere in the private sector at some indeterminate time, sounds like a made-up job, magical thinking job, don't you? An imaginary job, if you will.
She's going to go into private
That
practice.
doesn't stop the committee overseeing the Epstein scandal from continuing to enforce its subpoena to have her come before Congress on the 14th of April. And Congress people like Representative Summer Lee out of the Pittsburgh area, Congressional District 12 in Pennsylvania, are demanding that she continue. It doesn't matter that she's the head of the Attorney General's office. In fact, it sounds like she's going to be hanging around for the next month in transition in some capacity. So, and then what about the Florida bar? They said they weren't going to investigate her unethical behavior and conduct in violation of the rules of professional responsibility that I also swore an oath to, because she was in the federal government. Well, she's not in the federal government anymore. Let's cover it all right here on Legal AF. Take a minute and hit the free subscribe button. Let's start with Todd Blanche. Todd Blanche has had been the number 2 in the Department of Justice. Now, he always wanted the top job. He let it be known in an interview that when he left his big cushy law firm, his big white shoe law firm, after leaving the U.S. Attorney's Office and opened up his own practice with now 3rd District Court of Appeals Judge, then Emil Bovee, it was to take on one client, Donald Trump, and to reverse his fortunes. He had several criminal cases against him, and when they had the interviewer, the New Yorker magazine asked him, why would you take such a job? He said, why wouldn't you? You know, if I could accomplish what people think is not accomplishable, there'll be a reward for that. Everybody assumed he wanted the Attorney General position, but he didn't get it. In the transition team, they leaked a organizational chart. The top of the chart for Attorney General was Judge Aileen Cannon. Interesting. They never denied it. Aileen Cannon has never acknowledged it. She certainly never recused herself or disqualified herself from any cases involving Donald Trump. So his name wasn't there. The second on the org chart, Todd Blanche, number 2. Now, the number 2 in the Department of Justice, the Deputy AG, really runs the day-to-day operations. It's the administrative head. The face of it, of course, top prosecutor, if you will, is Pam Bondi, or had been, then Todd Blanche. So never Todd Blanche in the first slot. Even when they got rid of and they erased Aileen Cannon, who did they put in next? Remember Matt Gaetz, a congressman from Florida who had a little problem of allegations of child sex trafficking. And so he got dropped. And they still didn't go to Todd Blanche. They went to Pam Bondi, former impeachment manager for Donald Trump. Okay. What's the problem with Todd Blanche with Donald Trump? He doesn't really trust him. Todd Blanche has let it be known that he's a conservative, that he's a principled Republican, and there's just certain things he's not willing to do. And that's
he's not willing to lie.
And those closest to Donald Trump, that Blanche has stopped Pam Bondi from accomplishing Donald Trump's goals of prosecuting his political targets and critics like Letitia James, the New York Attorney General, or people in the left wing, like Act Blue, or going after Barack Obama or John Brennan. And he even famously or infamously fired Ed Martin, the head of the Weaponization Committee. Not so sure now that Donald Trump was happy about that. So a lot of the blame in Trump's mind may go to Todd Blanche for a lot of these failures. The Epstein scandal and the cover-up related to it.
Hit the like button. I'm gonna shut it down.
Pam Bondi, although she had to go. Then I dug deeper, and you see that there's this in the MAGA web. There is this belief that Todd Blanche is really a Democrat working in sheep's clothing against Donald Trump's interests. In fact, when he took to the stage of the Conservative Political Action Committee, he tried to gin up some support and lead the audience in some sort of call and response about the fact that he's not a Democrat, but it backfired. Here's the clip.
Because when President Trump, there's a memes out there suggesting I'm a Democrat. Everybody's supposed to say boo. Thank you. I'm not, and I haven't been. And if you're saying that I'm a Democrat, it's because you read the New York Times, which is a reflection of you. No,
I don't think there's too many people here reading the New York
Times.
I
hope not. So anyway, but I was
the only thing you've been wrong on so far.
No, but hopefully no. Yeah, that's right.
And that was just a week ago. But I saw something else because I stumbled across a couple of months ago in doing research for another hot take, a guy by the name of Peter Ticketon, who used to be Donald Trump's high school military academy roommate. They've been friends ever since. Peter Ticketon handles things for Donald Trump that nobody else wants to, like representing Tina Peters, the Mesa County, Colorado clerk, who is MAGA and friends with Mike Lindell and tried to turn over ballots and equipment to MAGA. And he represents a lot of interests like that. He's a big supporter of Donald Trump. They've known each other since high school. And I caught in a couple of podcasts Ticketon throwing dirt on Todd Blanche and almost exonerating Pam Bondi. Here's a clip.
Unfortunately, we're not getting the cooperation that we need. The one that is running things now in the Department of Justice, Pam Bondi sits at the head of it, but the COO, so to speak, the person who actually runs it, is Todd Blanche, and Todd Blanche is failing on all measures. Because of him, we haven't had a pardon granted since May. Because of him, he wants the J6ers to not be compensated for all that we put them through.
The J6ers.
Because of him, we're not getting the things that we need for Dominion machines, et cetera, et cetera. Now, this guy used to be, until January 4th, 2024, he was a Democrat, a registered Democrat. And then he represented Donald Trump on the Stormy Daniels case that any Democrat would have done the same job. But I don't know that this leopard ever changed its spots, because for some reason, everything that needs to be going forward in order to make Donald Trump's presidency work is being stalled intentionally by this man. And it's not because of ineptitude. This is a smart guy. This is a very capable guy. And it's not because he's not capable. It's because he's intentionally doing things the opposite of what Donald Trump has ordered to be done.
So at the time, and I said it to my Midas people, I said, that's like odd. That's odd that because I doubt Ticketon does anything or says anything without Donald Trump's approval. And he said it more than once. So my next theory was Donald Trump was using Ticketon to destabilize Todd Blanche and to signal to Todd Blanche that his position in the kingdom was not secure. And now I've got my confirmation. Because while he has, apparently according to reports, after a little bit of a screaming match, a little bit of a sob story in the White House, in the Oval Office, let Pam Bondi go, though he posted a relatively nice social media post about it, which she picked up on, about all sorts of things that she accomplished that she didn't accomplish. And now she's going off to a job that she won't disclose in the private sector. We don't know where and living where. But she's out of the government. When all that happened, Donald Trump could have appointed Todd Blanche at that moment and say, he's also my nominee to be the Attorney General. But that's not where it's going. And I'm sure he's had a conversation with Todd Blanche around it. And I'm sure it's a loyalty test thing. Donald Trump likes people to be loyal to him and kiss his ring. And Todd Blanche has let it be known that he will not, quote, unquote, stoop that low onto certain things that he's been requested to do in the Trump administration. You know who would stoop that low? Lee Zeldin. Lee Zeldin is a little-known representative congressperson from Long Island who ran for governor and lost against Governor Hochul in New York, who never really spent a substantive minute in private practice, certainly not in federal court, became the EPA administrator in the cabinet. He's the guy that kills all the laws that are there to protect your clean air and clean water and mine. And Lee Zeldin is a first-rate political hack, Trumper, MAGA all the way, and has been trying out for this big job, I guess, since he got in. And Donald Trump values loyalty. He goes through attorneys general like he's changing underwear. He had 4 or 5 in his first administration. He's on number 2 now. That's 7 attorney generals working for Donald Trump. And Lee Zeldin, step right up. You're next. The wheel has spun and it's landed on you. I feel like it's the price is right. It's the loyalty is right. So to answer Todd Blanche's question, how low would I stoop? Who would stoop lower? Lee Zeldin. He's not going to restore any type of credibility to the Department of Justice. The 7,000 people that left are not going to reverse course and all head back to the Department of Justice because Lee Zeldin is now running it. It's not a reformation or rebuilding of the Department of Justice. It's more of the same. It's more destruction, weaponization, and going after people. It's just this guy is willing to do it, and whereas Todd Blanche put up some stop signs and wouldn't allow it to happen.
He has some morals.
So I'll have to see what to expect next. Now let me turn finally to Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi's not out of the woods, not by a long shot. She is out. Yes, she can't be impeached, but unless she negotiated for herself a pardon, which has not been announced, although Trump could do it at any time. She has a little problem called obstruction of justice and lying to Congress, which, because of the couple of times she's testified to Congress, and she could be prosecuted because those things happen within a 5-year statute of limitations, which means we can go to 2031 or 2030 and prosecute this when the Democrats are in charge of the Department of Justice. So criminal prosecution. Sure, Trump could pardon her. That's a tremendous amount of political capital to waste on Pam Bondi, and he doesn't pardon everybody. It just appears that way. What about the Florida bar, which I'm a member? Yeah, we have rules of professional responsibility. We have a Constitution of Florida and of the United States to uphold. And I could reel off at least 6 or 8 different rules of professional responsibility that Pam Bondi violated. Now, the Florida bar got a bar complaint against Pam Bondi in the past, and they said, well, we're not going to investigate while she's still in the government, which is a made-up rule, their own making, which I never heard of it before in my life. I've been a member of the Florida bar for over 30 years. But now the barrier is down. The excuse is gone. She's no longer part of the government. At least Kristi Noem got another federal paycheck pension. Pam Bondi's back to lobbying. She made tons of money as a lobbyist. She took a huge pay cut to come into the Trump administration. She's going to go back to lobbying the government for fees. We know that. So you got the Florida bar. Then lastly, what about that sticky little thing called the subpoena to testify before the Oversight Committee on the 14th of April? According to Representative Summer Lee, who I interviewed, and it's up it's coming up next, actually, in about an hour here on Legal AF, this doesn't change anything. Most people who testified about the Epstein file handling are ex-something, ex-President Clinton, ex-First Lady Hillary Clinton, ex-Attorney General Bill Barr, ex-Special Counsel Jack Smith. So why does ex-Attorney General Pam Bondi, why does it matter that she's ex? And if Trump thought that this is going to stop the Democrats from bringing her in now, in 6 or 8 months, or whenever, then they are suffering from a serious magical thinking derangement syndrome. Not going to happen. And we're going to make sure it doesn't happen by continuing to platform this, to talk about it here on Legal AF and on the Midas Touch Network. Take a minute, hit the...
Yes, indeed. Okay, I'm finna shut it down. Y'all can't hit the like button. It's been over 200 or sometimes 300 people in here, and y'all not touching the like button. So can you go ahead and exit to the left for me, please? I would greatly appreciate it. Go somewhere else where you feel like they deserve your like button. If I can't get it, then you need to go. I was finna say something real ugly. Can y'all go ahead and leave for everyone who do not want Mighty or to learn and grow and get informed? Because when we get informed, we get informed. We be knowing already before y'all get it. So go on over there where they late to bring y'all the tea. Yeah. Shoot fly. And don't bother me. If you can't hit that like button, I don't want to be bothered with you either. Oh, Pam, girl, why was you crying and fighting on your way out? You should have been saying, oh, okay, I got a story for you. I'm finna write a book. Auntie Fee don't mess. Oh, no, I ain't finna play with you, boo-boo. I don't want to play. I don't want to play that game. Why was she crying and fighting on her way out? Why, girl? You better leave with some dignity and say, that's okay. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book.
And let's bring in Fox News contributor and George Washington University law professor Jonathan.
Oh, no, that was yesterday.
Let's bring in Fox News contributor and George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley. And Jonathan, big news breaking at the moment. What do you make of it?
Well, in some ways, this is a signature move by the president. For those who have covered the president for 2 terms, now in the 2nd term, he is someone who was famous for his phrase of "you're fired," and he views a turnover in staff as a way of sort of priming the keg, trying to move things along. He has always embraced this type of turnover of talent. What is surprising about this action is that Pam Bondi was the was a true loyalist. I mean, she has been consistently by his side in the thick of it, from impeachment to fighting the early fights in this administration. She has been loyal and she has been aggressive. She has had many of the traits that the president values the most. And that's why I believe it's coming as a considerable surprise to many. We had heard some rumors around this possible change in the last week, but many of those were discounted because of her record as a champion for the president and his causes. She was not without critics on Capitol Hill. There were some people that didn't particularly like the cut of her jib or her style, but that is a feeling that they probably shared with many about many people in the administration. What Bondi was known for is that she was always going to be the last one in this fight. She was someone who had proven loyalty to the president over and over again. The change that is being discussed from Bondi to Zeldin as AG is considerable in terms of not just background, but style. And that may give us an insight into why the change is being made. Zeldin is a very popular figure in Washington. He is someone who basically knows how to run this locomotive. And Washington, D.C. is a different place. It's very hard to parachute into this city and try to replicate what you did in states like Florida, etc. Zeldin is someone who essentially earned his bones in both New York and Washington, D.C. He's very familiar with people here. He's very sophisticated. And so that would be an interesting choice.
That would be, Miss Town, that would be so disrespectful to me if she would try to join the survivors now when she had no regards for him. You know, she could have released the files. She could have defied him. She could have did a whole bunch of things. She could have been the saving grace, but she chose not to. And then she chose to turn her nose at them instead of facing them. She refused to apologize. No, she needs to be on her own.
What would the department
Yeah,
look
she needs to
like
stand
under
on
his
her
leadership,
own.
Jonathan?
Well, when you look at what
That's just my
Zeldin
opinion.
has done at the EPA, it's
I would
very
not
impressive.
want her to be a part of our efforts to get justice when she was
He
the
has not
justice.
only brought a great deal of fiscal
Oh, hell no.
responsibility to the EPA,
And her job was
but
to
he streamlined
represent
it.
the
He tried
people.
to
The people. She worked for the people. You know. But that's her big daddy. See? So she was undercover in the closet for Big Daddy. She was going to protect Big Daddy. Because he promised her a thing or two. If she just be quiet, don't tell their secrets, and go along with the program. Oh, hell no. No, she's not entitled. She need to do her own thing by herself. No. That's the same stuff Trump is doing, saying he got a job for the U.S., but really working for Israel. No, that's that traitor shit. Betrayal. No.
focus the EPA on its original mission. And he's gotten a lot of praise for that. You know, he's not someone that draws attention to himself. He's letting his work speak for itself. But I think the president has admired him for what he's done at the EPA. More importantly, what he has succeeded in doing. That is, you've had a lot of responsibility to the EPA, but he streamlined it. He tried to refocus the EPA on its original mission. And he's gotten a lot of praise for that. You know, he's not someone that draws attention to himself. He's letting his work speak for itself. But I think the president has admired him for what he's done at the EPA. More importantly, what he has succeeded in doing. That is, you've had a lot of cabinet members that have drawn fire, drawn a lot of litigation.
It looks like we do have an update coming directly from the president. The press secretary just retweeting his Truth Social, saying, quote, Bondi is a great American patriot and a loyal friend who faithfully served as my attorney general over the past year. Pam did a tremendous job, says the president, overseeing a massive crackdown in crime across our country, with murders plummeting to their lowest levels since 1900. We love Pam, and she will be transitioning to a much needed and important new job in the private sector, to be announced at a date in the near future. And our Deputy Attorney General,
More
a very
lies.
talented and respected legal mind, Todd Blanche, will step in to serve as Acting Attorney General. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. So a little bit different than perhaps was originally expected, that she would move to another position in the administration. He's announcing she's moving to the private sector.
She out.
Yeah, the thing to keep in mind about this is there is no bad blood that any of us are aware of between Bondi and Trump. Now, we can't speak for a relationship, obviously, that we're not part of, but I can't imagine that the president
we're not
has
part
not,
of it. She
found
took
her
those
service to
files,
be,
especially the
really
ones that have
pinnacle of
her in
loyalty.
them.
And she's literally the first one there whenever trouble starts. She's been criticized for that in terms of her role at the Department of Justice. Now, Todd Blanche, I'm also familiar with. He's a very good lawyer, and he's a no-nonsense guy. And whether he's here on an interim basis or he's being considered for the AG position, he is someone who is also a diehard Trump loyalist, and since he really believes in the president's policies, he believes in the president. He's also someone who sort of cuts through a lot of the noise. He gets these jobs done. And, you know, I think the president would necessarily have to consider him on that short list. You've got two very interesting choices here. What's fascinating about Todd and Lee is that they're both a bit understated. They're two individuals who are often heralded in private among people for what they are able to do to get things moving. It's not that they choose the path of least resistance. There is no path of least resistance in the Trump administration. But they tend to be successful in what they have done.
Todd's put out his own statement now as well, Jonathan. Pam Bondi led this department, he said, with strength and conviction, and I'm grateful for her leadership and friendship. Says Blanche, thank you to President Trump for the trust and the opportunity to serve as Acting Attorney General. We will continue backing the blue, enforcing the law, and doing everything in our power to keep America safe. So confirmed on all fronts there.
Yeah, and also the thing to remember about Bondi is she has, we talked a little bit about possible critics, even in the GOP on the Hill. She has a great number of fans, including the police unions, the police organizations, law enforcement generally. She's viewed as a lifetime champion of law enforcement. They trust her. And I think that, you know, those groups are going to want to see someone with that same record. But I expect that anyone you'll get in the Trump administration will do that. Like you, I'm a little surprised that she's not moving laterally to a different position. That, you know, the president's saying she's going into the private sector. But I wouldn't assume that there is bad blood here. You know, the president has a record of personnel changes when he wants to mix things up, try to move things forward. And, you know, he is looking in the next couple years as sort of close combat when it comes to legal issues. These cases are going to increase. If the Democrats take the House, you're going to have really the Democratic leadership come back with a vengeance. They've already said that they're going to investigate anyone who has been a key loyalist to Trump. They're going to impeach him again. All of that has been stated openly by the Democrats if they should regain power.
And you were saying earlier that, you know, if it were to be Lee Zeldin, perhaps, or someone who really understands D.C., is that a reason why, you know, President Trump has always liked sort of outsiders, people who sort of are against the old D.C. establishment, but moving into the next stage, is it because someone would understand D.C.? Does that seem like a really important connection to have?
I think it is a good connection because even if the Republicans keep the House, it's going to be razor close. And things are going to get even more aggressive. And I've had the pleasure of meeting him, and I've seen him work in the Congress. He is someone who you just cannot fluster. I mean, it's like just a flat signal coming off that EKG. I mean, he does not really, you don't get him to jump. He's someone who is a very steady hand on the wheel. He's outcome oriented. At EPA, he really sank every shot at EPA. He has had an incredibly successful run there. And I think that the president tends to look at figures like that and ask, I wonder how I can get him to a position to gain even more from his talents. Once again, that's not necessarily a condemnation of Bondi, because I just can't imagine that the president is critical of her performance.
Yeah, well, Jonathan, thank you so much. Would you stand by? We're going to come back to you for more in a little bit.
I'm Steve Doocy. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interview.
Blanche is in. Oh, wait, wrong Blanche. That's my bad. So if the idea of Todd Blanche being the interim attorney general makes you Blanche, well, you're not alone. In our breaking story today, more reason for blood to drain from your face. There's a recent press conference that was a study in strategic confusion and blatant stonewalling. It's our featured story of the day. Welcome to Occupy Democrats, and please hit that subscribe button if you wish this meme was a dream. In our breaking story today, Bondi's out and Blanche is in. Oh, wait, wrong Blanche, that's my bad. Rather, Todd Blanche is the man of the moment, and boy, the featured clip we have to share is both illuminating and ridiculous. But that's where we're at. So let's find out how we got here, and on the other side of this, Todd Blanche and his astonishing tap dancing around the elephant in the room. And breaking news, we just got Thomas Massey's brilliant salvo post just hours ago. Well, elephant in the room. And breaking news, we just got Thomas Massey's brilliant salvo around the elephant.
Now that is funny. The pig and the elephant. Y'all hit the like button, please. Support the platform. Like, share, and subscribe. I am normally not here this early in the morning. So please support the platform. Hit the like button. Double tap the 3 dots at the top corner right.
In the room. And breaking news, we just got Thomas Massey's brilliant salvo post just hours ago welcoming the new interim AG. Stick around, it is brilliant.
Let's go live now to Scott Frederickson, a former federal prosecutor. Scott, thank you so much for joining us here. A lot of turmoil at the DOJ in the second Trump administration. What is your take?
Well, I think it's no surprise when we saw the reassurances in the last day or two from the president. That's usually the kiss of death for Washington politics. I think the real takeaway here is I think we're likely to see Todd Blanche lead this Department of Justice for the foreseeable future. One, he is an experienced prosecutor, and this Department of Justice has lost most of its experienced career prosecutors. He has the trust of President Trump. He was his personal defense attorney, white collar defense attorney, when he was being prosecuted after he'd been indicted. And the second thing is it's going to be hard now going to Capitol Hill before the Senate to get the votes to confirm a new candidate for Attorney General, because the assurances that were given when Pam Bondi was up on the Hill was that the Department of Justice would remain independent and it would not be subject to the wishes of the president. And the opposite has happened. This is a first time basically in the history of the Department of Justice that the president has essentially taken over the department and issued his demands for people to be prosecuted in investigations. That doesn't happen in all of our history. So I think it will be tough on the Hill for a new candidate to get approved, an appointee. Todd Blanche, on the other hand, is, I think, a likely choice to lead this department.
How does a Todd Blanching of the Attorney General's office sit with victims? Well, it's a perfect setup to our featured clip and Representative Thomas Massey's massive post, just brilliant in response. Massey is on this woman's side, as you're about to see. Blanche, not so much.
But, I'm reading that, Donald Trump's personal fixer, who literally flew to meet with Ghislaine Maxwell and move her into Camp Cupcake, is going to be her interim replacement. And that's terrifying. I don't have any faith that he cares about transparency. What I'm seeing all over again, and I've been hammering this since I came forward in, 2024, is that the survivors do not matter in the equation. The cover-up is what matters most. And I have no faith that the cover-up won't continue.
That personal fixer who you're referencing is Todd Blanche, of course, who's now acting Attorney General.
Okay, here is our featured clip of the day. Obfuscation has been taken to a new level. In the face of an ongoing investigation, Todd, the fixer Blanche, had this to say. Then wait till you see Thomas Massey's fabulous, inspiring response from earlier this morning to this guy.
Just to clarify, is the public going to learn the identities of the men who abused the girls with the information that you're releasing? And if not, why not? And then I have a quick follow-up.
You just baked in an assumption into your question that I have never said and I don't know to be true. Is the public going to learn about men that abuse these girls? Like, what does that mean? I don't understand what that means.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean,
the trips
of young women through Epstein's.
We said in July, and it remains as true today as it was in July. If we had information, we meaning the Department of Justice, about men against women, we would prosecute them, right? We talked about the work that we're doing. That's why I said that. I said this earlier. There's this built-in assumption that somehow there's this hidden tranche of information of men that we know about that we're covering up or that we're choosing not to prosecute. That is not the case. I don't know whether there are men out there that abuse these women. If we learn about information and evidence that allows us to prosecute them, you better believe we will.
Wow, but it just gets better. Check out this exchange of posts between Spider and Fly. First, the Fly. Thank you, President Trump, for the trust and the opportunity to serve as acting Attorney General. Now the Spider. Congratulations.
Hey, Shay.
Blanche. Now you have 30 days to release the rest of the files before becoming criminally liable for failing to comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. On the next episode of Massey, the Hebephile Hunter, well, he's certainly on the move.
Thank you for hitting the like button.
World dominated by the actions of powerful, reprehensible men who have sick and perverted proclivities that threaten the planet to satisfy their dark and lecherous desires. On a brighter note, happy and peaceful Passover and Easter in the spirit.
Same to you, sir. I got to get ready to go. I got one more to go. Yeah, because these likes ain't where they need to be. My support ain't where I need to be. Because this ain't normally the time I go live. Hold on. That just mean I ain't going to give it to you. I ain't going to give you everything I have for you. What they be saying? What's that song? Giving you something you can really need. I was finna go. Yeah, I can't. No, that wasn't a good one. Okay, y'all ready? Let's hear what old Uncle Bill has to say. I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. Yeah. And when I'm freaky, I am known as Bubba. I put my pickle in his mouth to shut him up. So, Bubba, that was the only time he wasn't running his mouth was when he had that pickle in it. Woo! Let's go. Let's hear what he got to say about what done happened up in her. Let's go.
Now look, I want to talk to you today about something. Now look, I want to talk to you today about something that happened just hours ago. On April 2nd, 2026, that every American, regardless of party, regardless of who you voted for, needs to understand.
No, naturally not.
The President of the United States fired his Attorney General. He fired Pam Bondi. And
Woo,
I know
ain't nothing like a
some
big
of you are
old
going to
pickle
hear
in
that
ya.
and think,
Yeah, no.
well,
Shut up.
presidents replace cabinet members all the time.
You talk too
And
much.
you'd be right, they do. I did. Every president has disagreements with the people who serve them.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bubba.
That's
Let
the
me
nature of
back that
government,
thing
Pam
up.
Bondi. And I know some of you are going to hear that and think, regardless of who you voted for, needs to understand. The President of the United States fired his Attorney General. He fired Pam Bondi. And I know some of you are going to hear that and think, well, presidents replace cabinet members all the time. And you'd be right, they do. I did. Every president has disagreements with the people who serve them. That's the nature of governance. But let me tell you something. It's not the act of replacing someone that should concern you. It's the why. It's always the why.
The why, okay.
When I appointed Janet Reno as my Attorney General back in 1993, I understood something that I believe every president has to understand. The person who runs the Department of Justice doesn't work for the president. Not really. They serve the Constitution. They serve 330 million Americans. They answer to the rule of law. And the moment that relationship flips, the moment the Attorney General becomes just another instrument of presidential power, something foundational breaks in our democracy.
I need to eat.
Now, the story you're going to hear on the
Miss Tom in here, she not in
surface
here. Ooh, Lord, I have
is
not
that
been
Bondi
eating
wasn't
right.
performing well,
My knee back
that she
hurting.
fumbled the Epstein files,
Lord,
that Trump
I
grew
just-
frustrated.
never mind.
And there's truth in that. We'll get to it. But the full picture is much more complicated and much more important than the headlines suggest. The real story
Oh no, what's
is
wrong
about
with
what the president wanted her to do, what the courts wouldn't let her do, and what her removal tells us about where we're headed as a country.
Woo!
And I want to walk through this
Oh
with
my
you
goodness.
step by step because the details matter. We've got
Miss Tom, Mrs. Tom, did you hear me? Please tell me you just came in. Let me delete what she said. Let me remove her, cause she trying to get me in trouble. Well, Miss Tom. Oh, you been here? I done deleted naturally Norla's little comment talking about eat, please. And, oh, okay. Okay, that's how we go. Is that what we doing? Is that what we doing? Okay. Okay, I see how y'all go. Hey, Miss Tom. Hey, Krista. Hey, everybody. Yeah. I can't say you snitching because we ain't partners in crime. But you doing something. You just a tattletale. You ain't no snitch. You just a tattletale. I know, Precious. Yeah, I got to do better. I don't know what's wrong with me.
I want to walk
I need
through
to
this with
re-up
you
on my vitamins.
step by step because the details matter. We've got to remember
I'm going to eat
where the
right after
rules
this.
come from. After Watergate, after Richard Nixon tried to use the FBI, the IRS, and the Justice Department to
She ain't
punish
got
his
no
enemies,
energy.
every administration, Republican and Democrat alike, maintained a wall of independence between the White House and criminal investigations at the DOJ. That wall wasn't built to protect bureaucrats. It was built to protect you, to make sure that no president, not me, not George W. Bush, not Barack Obama, not Donald Trump, could pick up the phone and order a prosecution against someone they didn't like. Now let me trace how we arrived at today. Pam Bondi was Trump's second choice for Attorney General. His first pick, Matt Gaetz, withdrew amid scrutiny over sex trafficking allegations. Bondi was confirmed after pledging on the record, under oath, that she would not politicize the Department of Justice. But within months of taking office, the department opened investigations into Trump's perceived political enemies. Former FBI Director James Comey, New York Attorney General Letitia James, former CIA Director John Brennan, even Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell.
You silly goose.
And then in February of this year, a banner was hung on the exterior of Justice
Let
Department.
me listen. I'm sorry, y'all. Let me back it up. I'm not listening.
Pam Bondi was Trump's second choice for Attorney General.
Okay.
His first pick, Matt Gaetz, withdrew amid scrutiny over sex trafficking allegations. Bondi was confirmed after pledging on the record, under oath, that she would not politicize the Department of Justice. But within months of taking office, the department opened investigations into Trump's perceived political enemies. Former FBI Director James Comey, New York Attorney General Letitia James, former CIA Director John Brennan, even Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. And then in February of this year, a banner was hung on the exterior of Justice Department headquarters. A large blue banner with President Trump's face and the slogan, "Make America Safe Again." Now, I want you to sit with that image for a moment. The president's portrait hanging on the building that houses the nation's independent prosecutors. The DOJ itself said it was proud of that banner. In all my years in public life, I have never seen anything like that. And here's the pattern that concerns me most. Bondi is the second cabinet member fired in less than a month. Kristi Noem was removed from Homeland Security on March 5th. I've seen cabinet turnover. Every president deals with it. But when you start seeing loyalists being burned through, not for failing to uphold the law, but for failing to bend it far enough, that tells you something important. And we'll get to that. Let me walk you through the facts because they speak for themselves. In September of 2025, President Trump posted publicly on Truth Social, demanding that Bondi move now to prosecute his political opponents. His exact words were, "We can't delay any longer. It's killing our reputation and credibility." That came just one day after he had removed a federal prosecutor who had failed to bring charges against two of his targets.
Deleting.
Then in October of 2025, something extraordinary happened. Trump posted what was apparently meant to be a private message to Bondi.
I didn't delete Natalie
on Truth Social for the whole world to see. The message pressured her by name to bring criminal charges against specific individuals, multiple news outlets,
did I accidentally delete
NBC
you
News
or your
and the Wall Street
message?
Journal confirmed it was intended as a private message. I want you to sit with that. The President of the United States, in writing, instructing his Attorney General to prosecute his personal enemies.
Oh, yeah. Okay, there you go.
Next? The DOJ brought indictments against James Comey and Letitia James. But in November 2025, federal judge Cameron McGowan Curry, and I should note, she was appointed to the bench back in 1994.
Girl, I don't know nothing how the gyms work like that. When you say you
Her
out
ruling
of,
found that the prosecutor who brought the cases,
don't worry about it.
Lindsay
We love
Halligan,
you. Thank you.
had been illegally appointed. The cases were thrown out not on the merits, but because the process itself was unlawful. Grand juries also refused to indict in subsequent attempts. Meanwhile, the Justice Department was hemorrhaging its own people. By early 2026, an estimated 6,400 employees had left through firings, buyouts,
That's
and
a lot of
resignations.
people.
Prosecutors who handled counterterrorism, public corruption, civil rights, and national security walked out the door. And by March, the DOJ was forced to waive its requirement that newly hired federal prosecutors have at least 1 year of legal experience. They started hiring lawyers straight out of law school to fill the gaps. So here's where we stand. The court said no. The grand jury said no. The career professionals walked out. And the president's response was to fire the person he'd asked to do it in the first place. Now, this is the part I want you to really think about, because I believe this is the most important distinction in this entire story.
Ouch.
Every president, and I mean every one of us, gets frustrated with members of our cabinet. I had sharp disagreements with people on my team.
Look.
That's not
Thank
unusual.
you.
That's governments.
Ouch.
The question that defines a presidency is not whether you get frustrated. It's what you're frustrated about. If the reporting from 8 separate sources, as NBC News counted, is accurate, Trump didn't fire Pam Bondi because she failed to protect Americans. He didn't fire her because she mismanaged the department's core mission. He didn't fire her because she wasn't tough enough on drug cartels or fentanyl traffickers. He fired her because she couldn't successfully weaponize federal law enforcement against his political opponents. And the reason she couldn't was that judges and juries refused to go along. Let me tell you something. That's the system working exactly the way it was designed to work. Independent courts looked at these prosecutions and said, no, this doesn't meet the standard. A federal judge said the prosecutor was illegally appointed. Grand jurors, ordinary citizens, refused to indict when the evidence wasn't there. The guardrails held. The checks and balances did their job. But instead of accepting those guardrails, instead of recognizing that the judiciary was doing exactly what the founders intended, the president removed the person standing between him and a more compliant replacement. Now look, I'm not here to tell you Pam Bondi did a great job. She didn't. Her combative performance at that February hearing, the name calling of law.
Did he say she didn't? Hold on.
Now look, I'm not here to tell you Pam Bondi did a great job. She didn't. Her combative performance at that February hearing, the name calling of lawmakers.
Let's give it up for the truth. What about a round of applause for him telling the truth? She didn't. Not because of this, not because she just didn't do a good job, because her job is for the people. It ain't for Trump. Yeah, but I know that's, oh, thank you, now 4 months. Woo, 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 woo. We stand behind you, Auntie Fee. Yes, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Go, Auntie. Go naturally, New Orleans. Go naturally, New Orleans. Go, Auntie. Go, 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 go. Lord, is this what happens when your ass don't eat? Thank you. I greatly appreciate all of you, but I greatly appreciate them 4 months right now. That 4-month membership. Thank you.
She didn't.
Bless you.
Her
Love
combative
you.
performance at that February hearing, the name calling of lawmakers,
Absolutely.
standing between him and a more compliant replacement. Now look, I'm not here to tell you Pam Bondi did a great job. She didn't. Her combative performance at that February hearing, the name calling of lawmakers, the failure to answer substantive questions, the fumbling of the Epstein files, those were real failures. But there's a world of difference between firing someone for doing poorly and firing someone for not being willing or able to cross lines that should never be crossed. Here's the honest truth, and this is the part that keeps me up at night. The people who left the Department of Justice, those 6,400 and counting, they aren't political appointees. They aren't the talking heads you see on cable news. They're the prosecutors who spend years building cases against fentanyl networks and international drug cartels. They're the lawyers who dismantle human trafficking rings. They're the counterterrorism experts tracking threats to the homeland every single day. They're the civil rights attorneys who protect voting access and prosecute hate crimes. They're the public corruption specialists who hold all politicians from both parties accountable. And when they walked out or were pushed out, they didn't just leave empty desks behind. They took decades of institutional knowledge with them. They took relationships with foreign intelligence services. They took expertise in complex financial fraud that takes years to develop. You cannot Google your way into understanding how to prosecute a RICO case or dismantle a cybercrime network. And now, as of March 2026, the Department of Justice has waived its long-standing requirement that newly hired federal prosecutors have at least 1 year of experience practicing law. They are hiring lawyers straight out of law school to handle cases that experienced attorneys spent entire careers mastering. Let me put that in terms every American can understand.
Bondi did not do her job.
Imagine your local hospital
You go, President Clinton.
fired every
Absolutely.
experienced surgeon and then tried to recruit replacements by eliminating the residency requirement. You would be terrified to walk through those doors. That's what's happening right now at the Department of Justice, except the patients are 330 million Americans. I spent 8 years managing the federal workforce, investing in government capacity, and I can tell you from hard experience, institutional damage like this doesn't heal overnight. It doesn't heal in a year. It takes a generation to rebuild expertise that was destroyed in months. The people who keep you safe don't make headlines, but when they're gone, you will feel it. Now let me ask you to focus on one fact, just one. Todd Blanche, the man who is now serving as acting Attorney General of the United States, was Donald Trump's personal criminal defense attorney. He represented the president in his New York criminal trial. He stood beside him in court. He argued motions on his behalf. He was his lawyer. And now that same man is in charge of the institution that prosecutes federal crimes, investigates public corruption, oversees the FBI, and is supposed to operate independently of the White House. I'm not going to editorialize excessively on that. I trust you to understand the implications. But I will say this. In the entire history of this republic, I am not aware of a precedent where a president's personal defense attorney was placed in charge of the nation's prosecutorial apparatus. If you can find one, I'd like to hear about it. And then there's the timing. Pam Bondi was subpoenaed by the Republican-led House Oversight Committee to appear for a deposition on April 14th, just 12 days from today. The committee voted 24-19 to compel her testimony, and 5 Republicans crossed party lines to support that subpoena. She was fired 12 days before she was due to testify under oath about her handling of the Epstein files. Now, I'm not going to stand here and tell you I know exactly why the timing fell this way. But I will tell you that in my experience, in decades of governance and politics, when the timing of a decision looks suspicious, it usually deserves a question or two. Congressman Robert Garcia, the top Democrat on that committee, has already said Bondi remains legally obligated to appear. Whether she does remains to be seen. And here's the broader pattern that troubles me. The president is burning through loyalists who can't deliver impossible demands. Noam, now Bondi. When loyalty only flows in one direction, you don't have a cabinet, you have a revolving door. And no one walking through that door next is going to miss the message about what's expected of them. So where does this go? Let me share my honest assessment with all the caution that an uncertain moment like this demands. Under Todd Blanche, a man whose entire relationship with the president was built on defending him in court, I anticipate a Department of Justice that is even more aggressive in pursuing politically directed prosecutions. The signal has been sent loud and clear. If you don't deliver what the president wants, you're gone. The next person in that chair knows what happened to the last one. But here's where I find a complicated kind of hope. The judiciary has already shown that it will not simply go along. Judge Curry's dismissals, the grand jury refusals, the rulings that Trump-appointed prosecutors were illegally installed. These demonstrate that the courts remain a functioning check on executive overreach. The guardrails are strained, but they have not broken. The danger, though, is what happens when you keep pushing against those guardrails. The harder the executive branch pushes, the more frequently it will collide with the judiciary. And at some point, that confrontation becomes something much more serious than a dismissed indictment. It becomes a constitutional crisis. And this is where things start to get complicated. Because with thousands of experienced prosecutors gone and hiring standards lowered, who is handling the real casework? The terrorism threats, the cybercrime rings, the organized crime networks, the financial fraud. These cases don't prosecute themselves. America's enemies don't take a day off because the Justice Department is in turmoil. But there is a silver lining, and I want to be honest about it. 5 Republicans on that House Oversight Committee crossed party lines to subpoena the Attorney General. 5. That kind of bipartisan accountability is rare in this environment, and I don't take it for granted. It tells me that institutional integrity still has defenders in both parties. The question now is whether enough people, in Congress, in the courts, in the public, are willing to insist that the rule of law belongs to everyone, not just the person sitting in the Oval Office. Let me close with something I've believed my entire life and that I believe more strongly today than ever. Democracy is not a machine that runs on its own. It's not a system you can set and forget. It's more like a garden. It requires constant tending, and if you neglect it, the weeds will take over. The independence of the Justice Department is one of the most important things growing in that garden, and right now it is in serious trouble. But I refuse to end on despair, because despair is a luxury that democracy cannot afford. I look at what happened in those courtrooms and I see
I'm glad
hope.
you put us on
Judge
game
Cameron
earlier
McGowan Curry
months ago
looked at politically motivated indictments
on
and said,
the
no, not
membership
in my
about
court.
her.
Grand jurors, ordinary American citizens, refused to rubber stamp prosecutions that lacked evidence.
You talking about Pam
Five
Bondi
Republican members of Congress put institutional
on the
integrity
membership
above
about her?
partisan loyalty and voted to hold the Attorney
Oh,
General
you lost me on
accountable.
that one naturally.
And thousands of career prosecutors chose their oath to the Constitution over their
You
careers
talking about Pam
and
Bondi
their paychecks.
being one of them?
These are the people who keep democracy alive, not through speeches or elections, but through quiet, daily acts of integrity that most
integrity.
Americans, despair is a luxury that democracy cannot afford. I look at what happened in those courtrooms and I see hope. Judge Cameron McGowan Curry looked at politically motivated indictments and said, no, not in my
I be
court.
trying to keep us
Grand
ahead of the
jurors,
game.
ordinary American citizens, refused to rubber stamp prosecutions that lacked evidence. 5 Republican members of Congress put institutional integrity above partisan loyalty and voted to hold the Attorney General accountable. And thousands of career prosecutors chose their oath to the Constitution over their careers and their paychecks. These are the people who keep democracy alive, not through speeches or elections, but through quiet, daily acts of integrity that most Americans will never see. I've been reflecting a lot lately on my own time in office. Not to boast, Lord knows I made my share of mistakes, but I will tell you this. I always believe that the measure of a president isn't perfection. It's whether you leave the institutions of this country stronger or weaker than you found them. Whether the person who comes after you inherits a system that works or a system that's been hollowed out for short-term political gain. That's the test. And right now, we are not passing it. So here's what I'm asking of you. Pay attention. Stay informed. Hold your leaders accountable, regardless of which party they belong to.
Absolutely.
Support an independent judiciary and vote in every election at every level. I've spent my whole life believing in this country's ability to correct itself. I still believe it. But self-correction doesn't happen by itself. It happens because people like you decide it matters enough to fight for. And right now, it matters more than ever.
Okay, good people. I'll be back later on. Oh, okay, they say we all look alike. Nope, absolutely not. They all look alike. Yeah. This is why she going so hard for 47. Okay, I gotta go. I gotta go get something to eat. I was finna find something else, but let me go eat. I'll be sleeping and listening at the same time. Yeah, I'll be back maybe around 4:30. Let me eat. I haven't eaten, y'all. Let me give me something to eat. Peace. Bye. Mwah.